guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brianna Lightfoot Smith, also known as the Mom of Three in Mom of Three and Me, and I am so happy that you joined me. So on today's episode, I'm going to be honest and just talk about how lonely and depressing motherhood got for me for a little bit. And I'm also going to share some of the things that helped me to shift my perspective. So if you did not watch the very first video, I have three sons, Jaden, Joshua, Jaden, John, and Joshua. Say that 3 times fast. And they are 4, 2, and 3 months as of this recording, actually probably 4 months as of this recording. And they are such a blessing to me, but they are not anything that I planned for by any means. I had a vision for my life that very much looked like me having a career as a baby. I wanted to write for Essence magazine in college, and upon graduating, actually like a month before graduating, I was like, you know what, I don't think I want to do that anymore, which led me into a sense of panic, because I'm like, this is all I pursued for maybe 16 years at that point, and I'm not really sure what else I should be doing. And so I got an invitation from our school's career department to apply for something called City Year. So City Year is an AmeriCorps program where you serve in a inner city school. We worked in a high school. I worked at Clark High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. If you're from New Orleans, what's up? Gang, gang, gang. I would say some New Orleans things, but my friends who are actually from New Orleans would probably run me, so I'm not gonna do all that, but I'm just saying New Orleans is home for me. Even with us living in Arlington now, New Orleans will always be home, because that's where Jordan and I started our family. Like, we got married here technically, but we went back there and lived as a married couple for the first time and all these different things. And so anyway, life was heading down this one path for me, and then everything changed almost immediately. Got married, got pregnant 6 months into my marriage, which was not expected. I should have kind of expected it, because I got off birth control, because I felt like that's what God was telling me to do at that particular time. And yeah, everything really shifted for me. This career path that I had been on changed very suddenly. And even when I was pregnant with Jaden, I actually passed out in my car. I had a full-time job, but felt the desire to go from full-time to part-time as I was preparing to deliver our first baby. And I was just doing everything because I was afraid of losing my identity. I was like, okay, motherhood, cool, whatever, but like, I don't want that to define me. And so I did all the things. I was working in ministry at my church. I was going to different volunteering activities. I was working another part-time job. Instead of just working one full-time job, I had 2 part-time jobs. One was working with teens. Well, that's how it was sold to me initially, was that I would be working with teens. I actually did not end up working with teens, but hey, it's fine. God works everything together for his good and for our good and his glory. But yeah, I was sold on the idea that I'd be working with teens. And so I was like, okay, this is kind of a way to work on some of my passion, because after living in New Orleans, I realized I really loved working with teens. And so I was like, okay, well, my job is kind of the job that you get to pay bills, and this part-time gig with the Boys and Girls Club will help me to feel like I'm doing something that's helping me to make a difference in the world. And so that was amazing. Me recognizing that helped me to write a book. And when I was pregnant with Jaden, I actually did kind of a mini speaking tour. I was speaking at different places in the city of New Orleans. And I feel like shortly after I had Jaden, I had a conference in November of 2017. And then after that, it feels like things just kind of dried up for me. Like, no speaking engagements. I was writing books. Literally on this computer that's sitting in front of me, I probably have a dozen books that have been completely written. Not even like, oh, they're in the draft form, or oh, no, they're written and ready to be published. They're just, God hasn't given me the green light yet. And so I, over time, And really it hit after or during the pandemic. I became depressed because I had Jaden, that's cool, great. He's such a blessing. And I remember being like, wow, I can't believe I didn't want to have kids. Like, he's so amazing. He's such a great addition to our life. Like, this is it. But then I had our second son, John, and I was actually excited about his birth because I felt like with him, I got a second chance. When I found out I was pregnant with Jaden, I was actually extremely sad. I cried, not tears of joy, tears of almost like despair and disbelief, and thinking, wow, I'm really about to go down this whole path that I was not expecting. So with John, I felt like I was getting a second chance to be excited about a pregnancy, to be excited from the very beginning. Because I got excited with Jaden's pregnancy right at the end, but I was like, wow, here's what it must feel like to have a child, even if you didn't plan for them, and be excited about it. And then last year, I got pregnant again with our son, Joshua, and we got the news for that. I think it was on Father's Day, because that was or maybe the day before Father's Day, and that was part of my gift to my husband, was a pregnancy test in a Father's Day bag. And you know, people be showing their cute reactions, like, oh, hubby, I put it in a shoebox. It's like, no, Jordan was like, what? He just looked at it, and then he looked at me, he said, so how do you feel? Because again, he knew this was not the life that I had planned for me. And I said, well, you know, trust God, and it keeps happening, and scripture says that babies are a blessing. And so that's what I have to believe, right? But what really threw me was, I was at my parents' house one day, and my dad was just staring at me, and I was like, what's going on? You good? He's like, well, you know, I'm just looking at you. And I said, okay, what do you see? And he said, I feel like I'm looking at, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I feel like I'm looking at someone who has lost her identity. Like, he's like, I look at the way that you care for your kids, and it's amazing. He said, but I feel like you're not you anymore. And it was kind of hurtful for me, because I felt like I had, in previous seasons, done such a great job maintaining my identity. So it was kind of hurtful to be like, well, I don't know what else to do. I thought I was doing a pretty good job. That was kind of hurtful. But then it was also hurtful because I felt like I had to have this reckoning of, yeah, you know, there is some truth to what you're saying, and that this is not what I had planned. And I'm not really even sure what's on the other side of it. And I can say, even as of this video's recording, I don't know what's on the other side of it. I tell my mom, my dad, my sister all the time that I cannot wait for that big aha moment of like, oh my gosh, God, this is why we had to have these kids, or this is why we had to do it in this time frame, or this is why, you know, I have not had that moment yet, but I have that confidence and that assurance, like, that this can't be it, quote unquote. And even when I say this can't be it, I can say that I have found so much more joy in this season, when instead of mourning and grieving over what I feel like I lost, I really focused and leaned into what I've gained through my children, things that they have taught me, and even launching this platform and trying to create some connectivity with other moms who may be feeling what it is that I'm feeling. Because there's a scripture in the Bible, in 1 Corinthians, that says when we are comforted, or 2 Corinthians, when we are comforted, it's for your comfort. And I had to believe, at least within myself, to feel like, okay, if I'm going through this, it has to be, even if it's not for me, it has to be for somebody. And when things don't go as we plan them, it can be extremely difficult, right? It can be it can throw us off our rocker. It can throw us off our routine. But I've shared this on my previous platform, Black Girls with Purpose. You have to bloom where you're planted anyway. You have to do it anyway. You have to use your gifts anyway. And something that has helped me is that I have decided, instead of being like, oh man, I was going to be this career woman, or I was going to do this, I'm using the same talents and skill sets that I used in my career and even building my other businesses for motherhood. Like, I do meal plans on Trello boards, and I create calendars for my children that also help me, because when I was just winging it and trying to act like I was someone I was not, things did not go well for me or for my family. And I felt like not having a routine, I felt like I was, again, dying to a part of me as opposed to really flourishing in my God-given identity. And at the end of the day, God knows that I'm a planner. He knows that I'm someone who loves strategy. And so being able to put that same energy into my family has really, really blessed me. And so I don't know what your particular gifts are, what your skill set is. I don't know, what your testimony is as far as it relates to kids. I don't know if maybe you plan to have lots of children or even just one child and you haven't had them yet. People may be telling you, oh, you're experiencing infertility or all these different things. I just want you to know, no matter what your situation is, if your life is not what you have planned, just keep living. Like, I, again, as a woman of faith, subscribe to the belief when scripture says in Ephesians 3:20, God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that I can ask or think. And so if my belief is that even the great ideas that are in my head are just a fraction of what God has for me, then that gives me the courage and the faith and the hope and the confidence to keep going. And I still wait every day with hopeful expectation of how God's going to turn this thing around in a way that I cannot believe. And I'm going to be able to live out some of those dreams that I have of traveling the world and publishing all these books that I was talking about previously. But until then, I'm going to continue to bloom where I'm planted because if I'm planted here, that means that this is where God needs me. So I hope that's an encouragement to you. Again, if you guys watched the very beginning or the very first video that I did with my sons, you know that I shared that one of my motivations for this channel is to encourage you guys, to educate you, to equip you. Like if there are specific questions you have about motherhood or marriage or ministry or meal prep, like whatever the case may be, that's what I'm here to help provide for you guys. But I also want it to be something that's substantial, something that may help you as you go throughout your weeks where you're feeling like, hey, why does nobody see me? For us to be able to be here to encourage each other and let you know that your work is important, I'm just happy to let you know that your work, look at me in the eyes, your work is important. Drop me some information below, some comments below. Let me know, how do you bloom where you're planted? Where are you at in your life currently? And then how does that look different than where you thought you would be? And how are you working through that? Because it really is a journey. Can't wait to see what you guys say in the comments. Talk to you later.